Welcome to my channel. My name's Bissy and my goodness, we're here. Episode 1 of the Vampire Lestat breakdown. Now my reaction for episode 1 is live on the channel, so you can watch that if you haven't already. And what I think I'm going to do is post my reactions as soon as they're done and then take a few days to really allow the episode to sink in and then give my analysis like I am now. This video is going to be in a couple of sections. Firstly, I'm going to run through the episode and point out anything important that I noticed. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to open up a spoiler section. Now, I'm not going to go completely into spoiler territory, but I will allow more context with some spoilers. If you enjoy this video, please do like and subscribe, as that will let me know that I'm doing a good job. Okay, so with that said, let's get into the video. Okay, so the episode starts with what seems to be the end, an auction of Lestat's belongings pertaining to his time as a rock star in 2025. Now, we don't know the date exactly that this has taken place, but we have a lot of our major players here at this auction, starting with Armand. Now, Armand is wearing an eye patch. He looks incredibly somber, and it does look like his eye is missing. There's scarring around it as well. Next, we see Louis approaching his seat using a cane to walk. We then see that Louis is missing at least part of his leg, and he has a prosthetic. Now, I got this comment about Louis' leg on my reaction video, and I do have a theory on how to answer it. I will leave it for the spoiler section, and that's just because we haven't heard about it in the show yet, but I do think we have an answer from the book, The Vampire Lestat. Now, as the auctioneer sets item 1 on fire, after he's just presented it, mind you, we see this framing between Louis and Raglan James. Now, I find this super interesting, and bear this in mind for point 2 in my spoiler section. And speaking of point 2, I want you to take very close notice of Raglan and the way that he's holding himself, the way that he's walking, the way that he's looking in this section. Okay, and next we learn that the failures refer to the body of work that Lestat has titled The Failures. Now, that is all of the albums that chronicle his time as a rock star. Now, Lestat has undoubtedly failed many people, many important people to him, but he's also been failed by people too. Now, I wonder if that forms part of the failures too, how he's been failed. Now, Louis and Armand's chemistry stands out here to me. If what I think is going on is actually going on, then they just cannot help themselves. And speaking of looks, we see the looks between Louis, Raglan, and Armand. Now, they seem like knowing looks, and again, I'm going to point you to section 2 of my spoiler section. Lestat's narration leads us into day 1 in Detroit. We meet Lestat's band, and he explains that they're performing in smaller venues to induce FOMO. He later goes on to explain that he's actually being shallow and really fears empty seats, so that's why they're staying in smaller venues. We get our first glimpse of a couple of members of the Fang Gang, and they seem to be trying to lure Lestat unsuccessfully into a trap. We learn that even after 30-odd gigs, Lestat and the band are still trying to iron out some kinks. It also seems that Lestat may be resurging the theatrical feeding that was established in the Theatre de Vampire. But this time, it seems that he has a system in place to help revive his victims. We meet Christine Claire, Lestat's lawyer, as she has him sign some documents that will help tie up some loose ends from a really crazy night in Corvallis. I think that's in Oregon. He's buying the wife, I don't know who of, an early retirement, and the lawyer a new boat. Now, after that night in Corvallis, it seemed that Lestat needed a body double. His name is Jada, and Christine's connections found him in the Czech Republic. Now, what I will say is pay particular attention to this fact. Don't forget it in times to come, I think. It's something to look out for. We also get a reference to morgue report. Now, I think that might be a nod to the morgue report that we see in the titles. Now, it could be nothing or it could be significant. I'm not sure yet. We then see Daniel for the first time, and Daniel has conveniently skipped the show. Daniel is on the tour bus with Dr. Farid, who is not here. Lestat begins messaging with someone who he simply titles Toi. Now, of course, that's French for you, and he's named himself Moi. Lestat messages Toi that he is right off Rome, Wisconsin. Now, I think this is a nod right back to episode 2 of season 1, where Lestat and Louis discuss a Roman holiday. As Lestat refutes Louis' accusations to Daniel, no to threatening Claudia on the train, and the impossibility of him being in the room where Don Pasquale was written, due to him being underground for most of the 18th century. We see that Twa has written "stuck in the mud again." Now, I don't know if this is a question, but knowing what sent Lestat underground all that time ago, all I can say is, ouch. We then get the context for the Halloween scene. Now, after Lestat discovers the existence of Louis and Daniel's book, he spends a number of days going over and over and over its contents. All the while, the band across the street are practicing, and it's driving Lestat mad that they keep going for the F. It's now Halloween, and Lestat is momentarily distracted by some trick-or-treaters. Now, just as a sign of how popular this book is, these children are notably dressed as Louis, Armand, and Claudia as Baby Lou, and also Claudia in her mustard-coloured dress. One of the kids is also dressed as a ghost, and I wonder if that is some foreshadowing for the future. And an additional note, I don't think it's a coincidence that the one child who gives Lestat the most headache, has the allergies, wants a specific type of sweet, is dressed as Armand from the 1940s. And I also think it's hilarious that Lestat was prepared for these trick-or-treaters with a bowl of sweets, a massive bowl of sweets. And finally, Lestat can take no more, and he runs over to the band and tells them off. They are suitably impressed, and that's the story of how Lestat met his band. And just another side note that I wanted to point out, the little child that Lestat pushes out the way is dressed as Dracula. Now, something that I could be wrong, I could be completely wrong, but the little girl right next to the boy seems to be dressed as Claudia from the 1994 film. I wonder, what do you think? So, back to Detroit, after the concert, Lestat is messaging with Twa, and he's struggling, but he stopped himself from sending that message. Instead, he says that he misses them. Come to me. Okay, so on night 2 of Detroit, the Fang Gang try a different tactic to get Lestat. It seems that they sent Baby Jenks to be a honey trap for him. I'll explain that a little bit later. But before she can act, Lestat has a meltdown on stage, triggered by Larry refusing to take up the tambourine again. And just as Lestat is about to attack him, he is stopped in his tracks by his music and a lot of flashes. Now, buckle in, I'm going to break down every single one of them here. Okay, so we get a very quick shot of Gabriella, I think as a human. Then we get our very first shot of Magnus, and it looks like he is leaning over Lestat here. Then we see what I think is someone's wrist being pumped, but I'm not sure. Could it be how Lestat got his scars? We go back to Magnus, and it looks like he's opening up his throat to feed Lestat. We see Lestat as a human, and I think this is the night where Magnus took him. We see a shot of Louis in the crowd, and he is his muse. This is Louis from the 1940s or 30s. We get a shot of Lestat, and it looks like he's underground or has just been brought from underground. We get a shot of a fire, a huge fire, I think from Lestat's childhood. Then we see Lestat as a teenager being held down by his brothers, and he then goes on to stab one of his brothers at the dining table. We see Gabriella jumping on somebody, I think it might be Lestat, but I'm not sure, in their dining room. Then we see human Lestat on the night where he's being dragged by the leg by Magnus. Then we get a clearer shot that it is Magnus actually dragging him here. Then we see the moments that both Louis and Lestat were made. Louis by Lestat and Lestat by Magnus. We see Lestat falling in what I think might be the 1940s. We see Gabriella and Lestat about to kiss. We see Nikki flying at Lestat with an accusatory finger pointing at him. We see what I'm sure now is Magnus shaking Lestat out from under the ground and then allowing him to feed on him. We go from one mother to another, with Gabriella laying on a chaise longue to what I think is a Akasha in her statue form. Now, I cannot figure out what this tool is, but somebody is placing this tool right next to her. And even when I flip the image, I just can't figure it out. It looks like some kind of funnel. What do you think? We then see Lestat lifting Louis in the air and then descending the stairs at the trial. Now, of course, this is in reverse. Next, we see what I thought was just Lestat in the aftermath of Louis and Claudia's attempt on his life. But now I can see that this is actually Lestat mourning Antoinette. Now, I really hope that we're about to get so much more details about their relationship in this series. And finally, we get somebody removing some glasses from Lestat's face. Now, I don't know who this is. Do you? And after this really intense experience, Lestat and his band really unite. And the sound is transcendent. Now, in the mix of all of this, Baby Jenks takes herself on stage and Lestat feeds on her. Lestat overdoses on the drugs that Baby Jenks has in her system. It's similar to the effects that Louis felt after he fed on Daniel on that night in 1973. As Daniel, Dean and Christine try to revive Baby Jinx, Lestat can see her soul on the ceiling. Baby Jinx warns that those closest to Lestat are going to die, and are going to die bad, and that they are coming for him. Lestat is confused and demands clarity, but before he can get a real answer, Baby Jinx is revived. Later that night, Lestat joins his band at the opening of the hotel that they're staying in. Not only does he join them, but he crashes his car onto the red carpet. Now, just a side note, the license plate says Mojo. Now, for non-book readers, just know that Mojo is my absolute favourite character of them all. Now, it's a not to book for, so I won't spoil any more of that for you. Now, in the bathroom at the event, Lestat's voiceover explains some vampire physiology that we didn't get from Louis. He calls out some of Louis' lies and mistruths too, i.e. his scars, the bob, as one of you lovely commenters called it, and the fact that he never had Louis' initials embroidered on one of his suits. Tim and Russ, who are both members of the Tooth Team, they are called the Fang Gang, they finally approach Lestat, and Lestat compliments Russ's pelvic floor muscles, and they invite him to their coven house, and Lestat politely refuses. Now, their coven house is something that I want to speak about later in the spoiler section. Lestat is high and lonely, and he looks for his band, and Daniel tells him that they have gone upstairs. Now, although Lestat is tripping, he is aware, even if it's subconsciously, that the gang are circling. Lestat takes Dee and Baby Jinx, who is now recovered, following the help of Dr. Fareed, upstairs, and they have a great time in the lifts. Now, whilst we're in the list, Lestat has a very, very detailed explanation of vampire sex. Now, what I would like to point out here are a few of what I think are really important stills. Now, I think most significantly, we see Lestat and Nikki, and I think they're humans here, embracing. And then we see Lestat on top of Nikki, and it looks by his hands that he is still human. There's another shot of Nikki and Lestat, but then we see Lestat on top of Gabriella. Now, I don't know that this is the same scene that we see here with somebody on top of Gabriella. Now, I think this is from the scene that we saw in the trailer. Now, we get a very, very short clip of this bottle of vodka, and it's Onyx and Ash. Now, I think this is fictional for the show. I can't find it anywhere. But it is really interesting. Now, I wonder if this is the vodka bottle that Lestat was referring to when he enters his vampire dressing room. We then get a quick shot of the tattoo on the back of Baby Jinx's neck. Now, initially, I thought it said killer, but it actually says kill her. And if you recall from season 1, episode 5, Claudia meets the vampire Bruce. She says that he doesn't kill like a Bruce. She says he kills like a killer. Now, refer to point 4 in my spoiler section if you want to know a little bit more about it. And speaking of point 4 in the spoilers, as they reach the 8th floor and they finish up, Baby Jinx tells them that she's getting married in a week. Baby Jinx's deception is seemingly revealed as Lestat turns around and he is faced with the Fang Gang. Lestat fights, but they do end up grabbing him, and he then has flashbacks to the night he turned Claudia, but also what I think looks like a vampire wedding. It looks like a wedding between him and Nikki. Russ reveals that the gang are actually the Children of Darkness reimagined, and that sends Lestat off the edge. He laughs his head off. And just in time, he is rescued by Daniel and Sam. Now they fight some more, and Lestat crashes through the door of the penthouse into the party. Now this is where the band discover Lestat's secret. DJ Sam also reintroduces himself to Lestat, and Daniel asks that question again. What about the stutter? Lestat escapes, and we find him a few days later, maybe I think, in a motel room. Now we have a look at his text. He's calling out desperately to Trois. He's begging them to please, please come. He needs them. They ask what his expectations are, and Lestat responds, none, nothing. He lets them know that he's in the Starlight Inn in room 14. He says that he loves them, and after they don't respond, he says, forget it, I'm fine, to hell with you. Finally, Trois responds that I'm here, and you see the look on Lestat's face. His mouth is open, and it's revealed that Trois is Gabriella, his fledgling, his lover, his mother. Now, Lestat seems like a child in this moment, and initially I thought that the words were sticking in his throat because of the emotion, but I think it is actually his stutter. His stutter from when he was a child. It's coming back. He's in the presence of his mother. Lestat needed his mum, and he called out for her. But then we get this juxtaposition of Gabriella healing Lestat's cheek, but then falling onto the bed with him in a kiss. It's confusing and it's perplexing, but That's their relationship, and that's the end of the episode. Now, I wanted to get into the spoiler section, so if you don't want to hear any of the spoilers, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. For anyone who does want to hear, here we go. So number 1, I wanted to speak about Louis's leg and Armand's eye. In the novel The Vampire Lestat, a member of the theatre troupe named Emily writes to Lestat after he's left them. She's writing about Nikki, and in her letter she lets him know that although limbs can be cut off, they do grow back for their kind in time. Now, those are appendages. I'm not sure about eyes yet. I don't recall reading anything about eyes, but we'll see. Now, I think that they incurred these injuries after a very, very big fight. Now, I don't want to go as far as to say who with just yet because we're so early on, but I will get into that as soon as we're given just a little hint. I will get into that for you. And then point number 2. Raglan James. Again, I won't spoil the entire book, but in book number 4, and I'm not going to say the name of it either because that will completely give it away as well. But now what I will say is that I believe that Lestat was there at the auction. Now think about the framing of Louis and Raglan. Think about the self-possessed way that Raglan now holds himself. Now I think that this auction is after the events of book 3 and most of the way through book 4. Point number 3, Baby Jinx and a honey trap. Now, I wonder, did Baby Jinx plan to disable Lestat by taking as many drugs as she did, knowing that Lestat possibly feeds every night on stage? I think she might have. Now, I believe that Baby Jinx is a member of the Fang Gang, not only because of the books, but because of what we've seen so far. Now, the kill her on the back of her neck, I think is sort of a play on Killer. And I think Killer is Bruce. And I think she is going to get married to Bruce. And that brings me on to point 4. Now, point 4 is the Coven House that Tim mentioned. Now, in the trailers, we've seen Louis chasing after Killer, chasing after Bruce. And he does go to a really big house in the middle of nowhere. Is this the place where Louis finds Bruce? And does he find him on their wedding day? In the trailer, we see that Louis says a congratulations to somebody on their big day. Is Killer's wedding to Baby Jinx that big day that he's speaking about? I don't know, but it's going to be big. It's going to be huge. Now, that's all the spoilers for this episode. I can't wait till next week. Thank you so much for watching. This is so fun. I can't wait till Sunday. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And I will see you in my next one. Thank you again. Thanks. Bye.